Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first Vitality Live event in November. And the theme for this month is all around men's mental health. I'm James Rodwell, former England and Great Britain Rugby Sevens player, and now assistant coach with the Great Britain Sevens team. And today I'm going to be discussing different strategies used to overcome adversity with two very special guests. First off, we have Adam Jamili, a three-time British Olympian, one of the fastest ever men in British sprinting, a medalist in European, World and Commonwealth Games, and has one of the biggest smiles in British sport. Adam, welcome. Please jump on camera, come and say hi. There it
Hello.
is.
Hello.
How's it going? You're out in Florida at the moment. How's things going out there?
Yeah, good, good. Not too bad. I think you guys have actually got a bit better weather in the UK than we have over here today. So it's a bit wet and miserable outside. But yeah, good. Things are going well. Things are going really well. Thank you. What about yourself?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Really appreciate you joining today, and looking forward to getting into some into really important stuff and helping some
Absolutely.
people out. So, and next we have Alex Davis, an Olympian from Tokyo, a World Cup and Commonwealth medalist in rugby sevens, and someone I've described to many as the most resilient man I've ever met. So please welcome Alex onto the pod.
There we go.
Hey, AJ, how's it going out there? You all right?
Yeah, very good, thank you. I am in well, it was sunny Bristol, but it's not so sunny anymore. But we'll take whatever we can get for the time being.
Cool. And thanks to everyone who's joining us today as we chat through some different topics. Please feel free to ask questions, share comments in the box on the right. But to kick us off, guys, resilience. It's a word that's used in many different environments, mostly in sport. And what does it mean to you? I'm going to start with you, Adam. So what does resilience mean to you?
Yeah, no pressure. First answer. For me, I think you can. I think there's the general definition, but I sort of feel it applies to your situation, and it's quite a personal word. For me, resilience is that ability to bounce back and keep doing actually what you're doing when things are stacked against you, when things aren't going your way, when people are trying to bring you down. Having that resilience to keep doing what you're doing is so important, and that for me is what the word means. Yeah, situations. I'm in a situation at the moment. Like there's always people. The road to success is never just a straight line like that. There's always ups and downs. There's always people going to try and bring you back, and it's how resilient can you be? How mentally tough can you be to just keep always moving forward? And yeah, it's super important in all aspects of life, not just sport, but it does directly impact sport quite heavily. So you have to be super resilient to be at the top level.
Yeah, nice, really good. And Alex, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, similarly, I think it's quite subjective to the person and the situation you're in. Like, often, like the challenges we're faced with, like our capacity to deal with them is based on kind of our previous experiences, and kind of often you're just natural instinct kicks in when you're in those resilient situations. And for me, it's just about reacting to them and responding as best as you can with the experiences that you've previously had, and what capacity you have is kind of based on that. But resilience comes in all sorts of shapes and forms, as we all know, like from past experiences. But I think definitely it's totally subjective to the person. Like one situation for one person isn't going to be the same for the next one. And I think that's something that's really important to recognize. Like we've all experienced injuries throughout our career, like, but the way we dealt with them was probably very slightly different, or very different in many ways. So I think that's what's really important, both from like the person experiencing that resilient situation, but also the kind of people trying to help them out as well.
I think you've touched on something there which we should definitely talk about, and that's injuries. Like we're three sports people who've experienced different injuries throughout our career, and I think we'd be silly not to start at that point and say like, how have we got over those injuries, and what mindset have you used? So Alex, I'm going to take you back to Rio time, 2016. Rugby Sevens makes its Olympic debut. You've been selected for the squad. We would have been teammates then. Can you talk about your feelings around the selection, but also what happened next?
Yeah, I mean, the selection for me was kind of a bit of, I guess out of the blue, I was considered probably to be a bit of a bolter, like kind of an outside chance getting into the final selected 12. So for me, when I made it, like, I was just made up. Like I'm sure we can all share those experiences of just overwhelming emotion, just happiness, pride, the months of dedication you've put in to get to that point, to hear those words that you're going to be representing, not just obviously the team you're going to be playing for, like the Rugby Sevens, but also that wider Team GB family. For me, to be involved with that, having grown up watching the Olympics, aspiring to be one of those people, and many British sports greats, to be amongst them was something that was just, I guess, so proud of. And you can't really ever describe it. It's cliche. Everyone says, I don't know what to say, but it's true. You really don't know what to. And so, yeah, just being a part of that, going out to like the things like kitting out when you get all the gear and you're just walking home with bags and bags of fresh Adidas stash with all branded up. You really can't wipe the smile off your face. It's like a kid in a candy store. But yeah, getting out to Rio was amazing. Just being in that holding camp, all the final bits of prep going into before we started our competition, and obviously the hype around just the Olympics in general is just building and building. There's so much media attention, and you're just trying not to get too swept up with it, staying calm, focusing what you can control, kind of what's important in the days to come. And then mine took a bit of a downwards turn. For those that don't know, I dislocated my ankle in the gym just 2 days before competition. Well, just a couple of days before we were due to fly from our holding camp, which is like an hour's north in a place called Belo Horizonte, down to Rio. So yeah, that was a bit of a shock. I was immediately taken to hospital, put in a cast, given some crutches, and sent back to the Team GB hotel, where obviously there was quite a few other athletes looking at me questionably with looks on their face being like, hang on, the games haven't even started yet and you're already walking home on crutches. So yeah, that was pretty nuts. And then the guys, or we all flew into Rio and then I took a connecting flight back home to London, where there was just a whole heap of emotion, like confusion, questions in my head, like disappointment, a feeling of letting people down, letting myself down. How are the team going to be able to perform like without me? Obviously letting them down. Yeah, I mean, it brings back quite a horrible time, to be honest. I remember we were all in separate rooms in that place, and just some dark nights, sat on the game ready, trying to ice my ankle, and just thinking, why, what, and so many questions you just couldn't answer. Yeah, and I remember seeing yourself, Adam, just like wandering around, and people just yourself and everyone just trying to check, be like, are you all right, or just say what on earth happened. And at the time, there's nothing really you can do to make that person feel better. But that's something that really sticks out in my mind, actually, from that whole experience, was people like yourself and lots of the other athletes just coming over and saying like, hello, like, I'm really sorry to see you like this, like, keep your chin up, whatever it may be. But those things really stick with you.
I couldn't believe that.
Go on, Adam, you
No,
go.
I actually remember that so well, like being in Belo. That's when I got to meet you guys properly for the first time. Like, sports we don't normally all get to mix ever, so only at the Olympics. And I remember really chatting to you, James, a lot, and then Alex, and then suddenly seeing you walking around or having a cast on your leg, and I was just like, what is going on? I remember speaking to you, and I think some of the guys were telling me what happened. It was in the gym or something, a box jump, or I don't even remember what it was, but it was, and I just devastated. Like, to see any athlete get injured, but especially so close to the games, is mentally that takes its toll, I guess. And like you said, do you think it was quite important during that time to sort of like, how do you bounce back from that? Because obviously it's such a big injury at such a major event. You don't know if you're going to make the next Olympics. It's 4 years away. What was your initial mindset? Did you allow yourself to sort of accept it, and it crumbled down, and then did you work on feeling better for yourself, or did it take you a lot longer than that? Because obviously it was huge.
Yeah, I think it definitely took me longer than I probably anticipated, partly through my own wrongdoing, but also just obviously, like you say, it was such a catastrophic event at such a major time. Like, I think that is something that is always going to take a long period to work through. And so for me, it wasn't necessarily like a short-term fix. Initially, I was kind of just thrown into this whole world of trying to answer questions and like find ways of just removing all of these feelings and emotion out of my head. And I didn't really find a way, to be honest with you, because I'd never been in that place before. Like I was saying earlier about the resilient, like, I didn't have any previous experience. Yes, I'd had injuries, but not at obviously such an important time and in such a kind of dramatic fashion. And so for me, it was just about like, first and foremost, getting home, finding out what the damage was, having surgery, which I did, getting home to Bristol, and then in a way, I kind of just thought like, because I love the Olympics and I still do and always will. Like, and I wanted to support the team, and because ultimately, like, I had shared so much shared emotion with them. And for me, it was just about trying to get behind them, as painful as it was. Like, obviously, watching them to go on and win a silver medal, which I was so happy for. At the same time, obviously, I was kind of, well, just
Gutted.
yeah, gutted, exactly, yeah, gutted. So yeah, it was a lengthy process, and there were so many other things tied up in that like time period for me, which I'm sure we'll get onto at some point. But like many other injuries, yeah, I had the death of my dad like 6 months before the Rio Games, so I was in quite a probably, I guess, emotionally unstable place as it was, and so something like that is almost just a catalyst for further struggles, which is why it took me probably longer than I anticipated to kind of get over it. So that wasn't a bit of a roundabout answer, but I guess that's because of what it was. Like, it wasn't straightforward for me. It was very much like working through things time after time, and just seeing how I could get through it.
Nice. We just had a question come in just around, you mentioned around how you felt you let yourself down. Obviously, you talked about others and letting the team, but more importantly, yourself. Like, why do you think you felt that way about letting yourself down in that moment?
Oh, I think it's just like, it's that sense of pride, like, you've dedicated so much, and there's, you like Adam touched on, is 4 years to the next games. You know, you're going to have other opportunities to play and represent your country, but not to the level of Olympics. And I think all you want to do is go out and put your best foot forward. Like, you can accept if you don't go out and win a medal, as long as you've tried your best. And I didn't even get a chance to fire a shot. So for me, that was the feeling of kind of, yeah, letting myself down, was that I didn't even have a chance to kind of just show myself and put in all the hard work onto the pitch.
Yeah, no, I think all three of us can probably understand that and fully appreciate it. But I'm going to jump across to you, Adam, on your injuries, and I can't really not discuss it today. But your most recent one, Tokyo 2020/21, your third Olympic Games. You're desperate to be successful. You've been there twice before. You've come so close in Rio. What was it, 3,000ths of a second? Like,
Yeah.
you just talked to Alex about waiting 4 more years. You had to wait 5 more years for this one, and you get onto the warm-up track. And I spoke to you literally a couple of days before, and you said to me how good you're feeling. And I know it's probably going to be a tough one to talk about, but I think
That's
everyone,
okay.
and definitely me and Alex will be keen to hear it as well. But like, injured in the
Yeah.
warm-up, you still tried to go. Like, can you share a little bit of that with us?
Yes, it was like I said, in Rio, it was fourth in Rio, missed out on a medal by 3,000ths. And it's only those moments afterwards that you realize how long you have to wait to have that opportunity again. And I had to wait 5 years because of COVID. And then I wasn't having I was managing injuries the whole season. So I hadn't really put together back-to-back consistent races. And then probably about 2 months before the games, I managed to get like six to 8 weeks of solid working. And as a sprinter, that is so important. Like, I was absolutely firing. My training partner, Andre de Grasse, was the guy that actually won the 200 meters, and we were doing every workout together leading up to that. I was beating him in reps. He was beating, like, we were neck and neck. So you feel confident. I'm like, this guy's fast. He's run 19.7, 19.8 already. I'm beating him in training. I know I can run that. We get to the day of the race. Yeah, we wake up. It's an early start. They're always early starts to the heats. They always have to get up early, and you're sometimes not maybe used to doing that. But we'd adjusted for that. So I got up early. I was feeling well. I was hydrated. It was so hot in Japan. Like, it was so humid, and like, you walk outside and you just sweat instantly. Got to the warm up track. Did my whole warm up, and literally, so just before you warm up, or just after you warm up, you do a couple of block starts to really get your body firing before you go into the stadium, and then you're in the stadium for half an hour, 45 minutes, with the rest of the guys you're racing against before you walk onto the track. So just before I was about to walk to the stadium, to the call room, I did one more block. My coach was like, "How you feeling?" I said, "Yeah, really, really good." He was like, "Okay, one more block start, and then shoes off, trainers on, and into the call room." I was like, "Okay, great." In the blocks, set, bang, go, run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. Hit about 20 meters, And then I was like, okay, pretty good here. I was about to sort of slow down, and then all of a sudden my hamstring just goes like I don't know. It was a weird sensation. It was almost like a cramp, but I knew it wasn't a cramp. I knew it was more, and I just sort of like put my leg straight and stumbled. Sort of, I was around the bend, and I just sort of carried on straight. So I cut across the lanes, and I just dropped to the floor. And in that moment, I knew my Olympics was done, and I just didn't want to accept it. And then my physio ran over and he said, "What's going on? What's going on?" I said, "I think I've just cramped in my leg. I think I've cramped." And he was like, "Okay, cool, right." He was like, "Let's test it. Get on the table." And then I couldn't even like sit up and get on the table. And I was like, he was like, "Adam, I think it's serious." And I was like, "No, don't say that." Like, I'm almost in denial. My coach was like, "What's going on?" I was like, my physio was like, "I think he's got a little tear in his hamstring." I was like, "Stop saying that." I said, I was getting proper emotional. I was getting, "Stop saying that. It's just cramp. It's fine." I said, "Wrap my leg up." He was like, "Adam," I was like, "Listen, please. I've waited so long. Just please wrap my leg up and let me try." And I knew in my head it was over, but I just couldn't have gone all the way to Japan. I was literally 5 minutes from going into the call room, and that injury happened. And then my coach literally was like, he was like, "Okay, you can wrap it up." He said, "Do not do anything stupid, Adam." He said, "You still got a long career ahead of you. If you do something stupid, if you try and run and force it and you tear that hamstring off the bone or you mess with the tendons," he said, "that will affect you for years to come." He said, "Don't do anything stupid." I said, "Listen, coach, I have to try." He was like, "All right, you do you. It's your career." So I remember getting into the blocks. Like I walked in and I didn't like in the stadium. There's like a little warm up area, so you keep doing your own warm up, and all the athletes you're racing against, they're all warming up and stuff. And I was the only one that was just sitting there, and I was just there, like just didn't move, didn't put my spikes on anything like that. And everyone's sort of looking at me like, "Cool, this guy must be really, really confident. He's not really doing any warm ups, not really doing anything." And I saw a couple of the British officials in there because they work for the Olympics as well, and they were like smiling at me, "Good luck, good luck." And I was just there like had tears in my eyes. I was like, oh, and they were like, "What's going on? Like, what's happening?" And then they saw the strapping around my leg, and they were like, "Oh no." And literally, I remember just stepping out the blocks and just instantly feeling it, and just I realized I couldn't run, and yeah, I just walked the 200 meters. I was in tears. They recorded it as well. I wish I'd stepped out of my lane. That's on my record now. Nearly 2 minutes it took me to finish. So that's quite fun. Yeah, that was yeah, that was
That's my
brutal.
sort of pace for a 200.
I know, 2 minutes, well, 1 minute 58, I think it is. I wish I'd actually stepped out of my lane and got disqualified, but I didn't. I walked to the finish. I was crying. Obviously, the stadium that was empty. There was no fans in there, so it was the longest, quietest walk I've ever had. Some of the athletes were at the finish line were clapping me, and then I remember giving an interview. I don't really remember the interview, to be honest with you. I was just devastated, just crying. I haven't cried like that for years, since I was a kid. And
I know you probably don't remember the interview, but I imagine every sports fan who watched the Olympics will remember you after that event. And I'm definitely one of those. Like, it's probably one of the things that comes out straight away with injuries, isn't it? Emotion.
yeah,
Like, I remember before Rio, I dislocated my kneecap and I cried for 48 hours until I saw a specialist. It's just a natural reaction, right, for emotions to come out first. The bit I want to ask you guys is like, AJ, you talked about how experiences lead you to become resilient, be able to move on from injuries and learn how to bounce back. What sort of mechanisms have you guys used then to bounce back from those injuries, to get yourselves back to where you know you can be and where you want to be? Because Adam, that wasn't the first time you've done your hamstring. Like, you've done it before, you've come back and you were running quickly again. And same with you, Alex, not the first time you've been injured. Well, sorry, that was the first major one, but you've been injured since, and you've come back again. And I think, Alex, you probably had more injuries than I had tries in the World Series. So I think you probably got a lot of understanding on those mechanisms. But if you guys could just share like some little nuggets, really, like some off-field or off-track things that you guys have used, would probably be really useful to people listening.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, it was a lot of like you said, it was my first major injury, so it's kind of uncharted territory for me, especially being in like a professional environment. I didn't have any experience of kind of how to, I guess, properly conduct yourself, and so a lot of it was kind of just figuring things out as I went. But a huge like source or wealth for me at that time was just speaking to other people around me, especially in the squad. Like, really lucky in a team sport that I had so many people around me who had years of experience ahead of me and had been in those positions, like had ankle surgery or had a knee injury or had a shoulder injury. Like, as you get with rugby, obviously it's bound to happen at some point realistically in your career. You're going to have some time off the field treating something. So for me, that was something that I just tried to use as much as possible, like pick their brains, like not because I knew whatever they did was going to work for me, but realistically I could just take little pointers and try that and think, okay, that worked kind of well, I could probably roll with that, or actually, you know what, I didn't like doing that. So for me, it was really about like speaking to the people around me, using their experiences, and then trying to build on that for my own. And then ultimately, like, as I said, it took me a while to get through it, but it was just about like openly speaking about my actual feelings and emotions that were caught up in the injury. Because you definitely doubt yourself, you definitely doubt your ability to get back, even though you've done it before. Like, you think, oh, will this one be slightly different, or like the time frame to get back is a bit shorter than the last one, there's a bit more pressure, like you're not getting back for like a regular race or a match, you're getting back for a Commonwealth Games, whatever it might be. So for me, it was all about kind of digesting that and speaking about it just quite openly as much as possible, not necessarily with the people that were in the rugby environment, because obviously that's where you would naturally go, but just also like friends and family who are nearby, like obviously supporting you. So it took me a while to get to that kind of frame of mind, but that's something that definitely I've found one of the most useful things, really.
I think that's really nice. Like, you talked to a couple of things there, but obviously we're fortunate to be in that team sport environment and have that natural support network around us, but you also delved into family there as well and create that. Like, at what point in your career, and Adam, I'll throw this one to you, but do you start to create a really strong network around you to have that support, that openness, that trust that you can literally open up about anything, really, not just that moment of an injury, but any stresses or off-field, off-track things that are getting you down?
That is so important. I think Alex just hit the nail on the head with that answer. Like, and it took me a long time to realize that's what you need. Like, I've had a lot of injuries, like you said, in the past, and I've tried to like muscle it and warrior it and just try and get it figured out myself. And then and it's so difficult to do that because you overthink everything. And sometimes it just takes someone else who's not in your position to rationalize something that in your head you're not really understanding. And yeah, I've had, like I said, a lot of injuries, and it's only probably the last few years that I realized having that support system around you, being able to talk openly with your family, with your friends, people who aren't going through what you're going through. Your teammates is great and stuff, but having that external sort of support system is everything. So for me in Tokyo, I knew that I needed to speak to my family straight away. And obviously the time difference, they woken up in the morning, it was like 3 a.m, and they had no idea because it was literally just before I was about to race. So I didn't have time to text them and be like, listen, I'm hurt. So then I remember ringing my mum straight away, and she just listen, it's fine, just get yourself healthy. And because you start overthinking everything. For me, I was like, the other pressures come in. Oh, right now this is my last year of my sponsorship. If I don't run well now, I'm not going to be able to get a new contract with a kit sponsor. I'm not going to be able to provide for family for this. I made promises to, like, you just think of all the crazy stuff. And like I said, it just takes people who are in that support system around you to keep you humble and just say, listen, like, it's normal, relax. You don't have to be a soldier. You're an athlete, but you're a normal person. So having that support system around you, I think, is so key to moving on from injury.
I love that. I think what I like almost how you can differentiate between them is obviously kind of like your teammates or like your peers are kind of there for the practical support and the guys who have been there with that direct experience, but friends and family ultimately are going to be there because they love you and like they just love you for who you are. And I think that's what I just keep trying to remember is when I'm going for those tough lines like that emotional support will always be there, like regardless of what you're kind of physically going through. That's where the emotional support is actually probably more valuable than anything, and just reminding you of your value there.
What about you, James? Have you I know obviously you were talking about your dislocated knee and stuff. Like, how did you find coming back from that, and do you have a support system around you, or was that something you figured out after you competed?
He He'd never had injuries before. He'd played too many tournaments.
So when I get injured, I actually had my mum and dad there watching. It was out in Singapore, and it was I was chasing a record of most consecutive tournaments, and ironic, I got the record and got injured at the same tournament. So it was what 6 months before Rio, something like that. And yeah, I was in an emotional wreck. As I said, for 48 hours, I was all over the place. My dad's going, you'll be all right, you'll be all right, and just like you, right, everything goes through your mind. I've waited for my whole career to have this opportunity. It's gone. There's no way that I haven't done anything more done like to ligaments or anything like that to think that I'm not going to have a chance to go to the Olympics. So you almost need that 48 hours to process, but then it's all that support that they give you after that. Like I was like doing all the right things at home, and my mum and dad would be coming around like checking up on me. I don't know if it was checking up I was doing the right things or to help out with the family and things like that, but I think it's not until you have something like that that you realize, as Alex has kind of alluded to, like how important those people are in your life. Like you're always going to get that from teammates, that support from coaches, things like that. But it's those people that are really close to you that are always going to be there for you. But it's important that you open up to them to allow them to help you. So I think that was my big learning on it, and just sort of share how I'm feeling. And once you do that, it opens up the possibilities for them to help you. What do you need to help? Like, for example, like I remember my mum and dad came around and delivered like three massive bags of ice for me because I couldn't get to the shop to get it. And little things like that where you kind of not take it for granted that someone's going to do it, but you don't really think about it until you need it. And it's from then on, I think you're right. Once you start to build up that resilience and understand what that support network can do for you, it's really, really powerful. So yeah, that's probably my biggest one. I was fortunate I didn't have too many injuries throughout my career, but yeah, I definitely saw enough people have them, and to see this sort of effect it had on people. I think the big one you touched on was just about thinking of everything, and I think the big one for me at that time was to say, like, why me? Why has it happened to me right now? Like I haven't missed a tournament for 7 seasons, and now I'm getting injured about just before the biggest event that I could possibly want to play in, and I knew I only had one shot of playing in that because I was going to be too old afterwards.
Do you find doing sport for so long that maybe your family and friends expected you to, I don't know, they just expect you to like be like just have that resilience already there, or or have everything figured out and not ever have that moment where you can crumble and feel like that? I don't know. I find sport for me, like, yeah, made people around me think that.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying completely, and I suppose from the side for me, because I hadn't missed a tournament for so long, there was like an expectation that I was selected already, and that just brought on different like worries in my mind. Well, what if I don't get selected? Like suddenly everyone's expecting me to be away for that period of time, and I might be stuck at home. And like as I got further into my career, those things like started to get at me a little bit, and that side of things. And you touched on one earlier actually around sponsorship and funding, and that's an area that I think is probably sort of not really talked about in the sporting world. Like I think when I speak to my mates who aren't in sport, they're like, you're having a laugh that you call that a job. Like
it is silly. It is silly. It is silly. Like it is. I realize that what we do as a job is you guys are throwing a rugby ball to each other and scoring tries. I'm running in a circle for a living. Like it is silly. Like it is, but it's important.
And you're doing something you love, right? And it's massively important to you, and you can become self-absorbed with it. But the bit I was going to get to with that is just around like the things that aren't really talked about within the sporting world are like funding, salaries, money issues. Like a lot of sports people don't earn like that much money, and especially in Olympic sports. And you could earn more outside in the business world, but it doesn't take away that sort of worry at times around funding and how you're going to provide for your family and things like that. And I guess all of us, but like both you two have gone through some tough times. Like Adam, we were talking about it before around like funding cuts on that you've had through the athletics program and stuff, and Alex, like more recently in the build up to Tokyo, we've been made redundant. Like those are things that happen to people in normal jobs as well. So I'd just sort of throw out to you guys and just sort of how did you deal with it really?
Yeah, it was in the middle of COVID as well for me, so it was kind of like, well, that was the result, that was why we were made redundant. But just to throw that in the mix as well was kind of just something else to have to worry about. But to be honest, I was, because it was, well, Tokyo at that point was still 2020, like officially 2020, that was going to happen that year, so it hadn't been postponed. So ultimately, I guess it was kind of like, right, that's still the end goal, and this will figure itself out. And I think I just held on to that hope that ultimately something will come along, but like kind of just believing it hard enough, and something it'll work out. But then when it was finally postponed, it was kind of like, right, okay, have to address what's next, like finding other. You can't go and play professional rugby sevens anywhere else apart from for England or for Great Britain. So it wasn't like I could just go and pick up another playing opportunity elsewhere. And obviously the world was shut down. So it's like, right, how am I gonna, like we say, earn a living? I had to move back home to Bristol. Moved in with my mum. Still here 2 years later, 29 years old, loving life. But yeah, it was really challenging. I didn't really know what to do. And I guess I actually took the opportunity just to try and take, although I was still focused on Tokyo, I took the opportunity just to almost have less of a performance mindset and more just like, right, it's actually in a way a bit of a blessing. I'd actually previously, just before that happened, I'd been out for like 14 months with a shoulder injury, had 3 shoulder surgeries. So I was like, actually, this couldn't have come at a better time. Once I actually had the month off, I was like, wow, I actually really needed this break, because I was just so focused on getting to Tokyo that actually I hadn't considered the fact that I needed the mental rest more than anything. And so for me, it was actually a bit of a blessing. And I took my performance hat off and just looked at it from like a pleasure perspective, and just looked at it as like a real opportunity to make growths and gains in other areas. And ultimately, I think that's what put me in a better place for coming back when it did, and then feeling great and really positive about the opportunity to go to Tokyo when it came up again. So it was a bit of a weird one, but I'm sure like everyone, you just kind of roll with the punches, I guess.
Yeah, I could definitely resonate with that one. Obviously, it was I was quite in the middle of it as well. But I suppose, Adam, yours was slightly different. Yours is, you know, the funding for athletics and other Olympic sports is reviewed quite regularly, if I'm right with that. Yeah, and then like, what does it make you feel like when someone tells you you're not getting funding anymore? Like, where does your mind go? Is it a stick 2 fingers up, I'm going to prove you wrong, or is it a what's the point of doing this anymore?
It's almost nice to have that first one. Like, it's almost nice, and everyone would like to think, yeah, do you know what? Yeah, I'll tell them where to stick it. But actually, for someone to tell you you're not what you want to impress everyone, and for someone to tell you you're not good enough, and even if their opinion, like even if their opinion doesn't really matter to you, it does affect you. And yeah, when I got told by my federation a few years ago that I had a few injuries, and they basically told me we don't think you're good enough even for the relay. They said you'll maybe be a relay reserve. This was 2018, and they were like, yeah, we don't think you're good enough. We're not going to fund you. And I was just like, pretty devastated, really. I'd been quite lucky every year since I came into the sport. I've been on funding, and yeah, to have the people at the top not believe in you, it was, yeah, really devastating. And I got I never really talked about it. I got quite bad anxiety from it. Like I didn't realize how much people's opinions really did matter to me, and I was losing sleep over it. I was like waking up in hot sweats in the middle of the night. Like I was just in a really bad way. And then it's only when I started working with my psychologist. I talked to him about it, and he gave me a bit of perspective about life and what I'm doing as a job, and actually, does it really matter? As long as I've got my support system around me, if I'm successful or not, as long as I'm a good person on and off the track, then that's all that really matters. And then that sort of helped me get over that anxiety and prove them wrong. And then the next year I ended up coming 4th at the Worlds, from being told I was never going to be not even a relay reserve. And then then I got an apology from my federation, and then I sort of have to work forward. But that funding, that cut, like I never had that experience before, and yeah, like I said, I never thought anything like that would ever happen to me. Having that sort of anxiety, I was like I said, I was alone. I was in Florida. I was alone. I was like, my family and friends weren't here. No one was here. I was alone. Like, had my sponsorship was coming to an end. So I had the pressures of trying to run fast there and provide for my family, which also sits in the back of your mind. Am I going to be able to provide for my family? And yeah, and that anxiety just overcome me, and it was a horrible time in my life. It was really, really awful thinking back to it. Like, I've never experienced anything like it. But again, talking to people, not trying to just take the burden on by yourself, is what really got me through it.
Just on that then, the feeling of anxiety, like obviously me and Alex are not in the athletics world very often. We get to see you a couple of times every now and then at multi-sport games, but whenever anyone mentions British athletics to me, I think of Adam Jamili and the poster boy.
It's not me. It's not me, but there's pressure. There's pressure.
I know that's not you as a person, but how do you deal with that pressure from an outside world? Because you must be aware that there's a lot of people that are desperate for you to do well and expect you to do well as well at these big games and big events. Now, everyone who's on that start line wants to do well, right? So how do you deal with that pressure?
Yeah, you're a different athlete when you're running with pressure. When I first came into the sport, no one really expects anything of you. You've got no expectations, no pressures, and as soon as you do run fast, people expect you every time they see you on the track to perform, and especially when you're wearing the Team GB kit. Like, and as amazing and supportive as the Team GB public is, they expect the best from their athletes, which is great, which is fine. If you're wearing that kit, you're expected to be competitive, but it can be so challenging because people only see, for me and for you guys, they only see the 10-second or the 20-second race. They don't see all the work that has gone into it beforehand, the 4 years of dedication and grind, the waking up every day, throwing up at the track, grinding and training. And that pressure takes its toll. I've always had success every year, and then as soon as that success stops, that pressure becomes more and more, and you start piling it on yourself, and it's about dealing with that pressure and learning to overcome that, because like I said, yeah, it can be really intense, especially at the top level of sport, and you guys know that.
What do you?
Go on, Alex. You go.
I was going to say, what do you like rely on in those situations where you're in those pressure situations or in those big moments? What is it that you go to I guess, channel that energy, channel that pressure, calm yourself down, whatever it may be? How do you go about it?
I work a lot on my psychology, and I sort of look at it as, I train every single day, and why should it make a difference now that I'm in a stadium racing against people I don't know? And I sort of get into a place called the zone, and everyone talks about getting into the zone, and it's it takes a lot of mental work to get in there. And I sort of describe it as, when you're driving a car and you could be driving for 10-15 minutes and not really remember driving, but your body's doing it automatically. That's the same sort of feeling as being in the zone. Your body's doing all these movements, and your body it's just automatic. And it's just working on getting into that zone and realizing, just because I'm competing in a different environment against people, the fastest people in the world, for me, I've got my own lane. It's not going to affect what I do. Just go out there and run and trust your talent. It's got me here. I've been fast enough all these years prior to it. It's not, that talent doesn't just stop, doesn't just go away, which all sports people think. As soon as they get injured as well, they're like, am I still going to be fast? Am I still going to be able to run? Am I still going to be able to play properly? We're so irrational. We always overthink everything. It's such a stupid, but people do it all the time. But yeah, understanding that that's not always the case, and yeah, you can move past that.
Yeah, it's that old sort of cliche, isn't it, of sort of controlling the controllable.
Exactly.
It's so true. Why focus on things that you have absolutely no control over? Just do what you got to do your job, focus on your role, and that's all you can ask of yourself. Ultimately, it is cliche, but it's so true in all senses.
Well, for you guys now, that especially after the Olympics, and you guys got the medal, and going into this Olympics now or any other competition, did you not find that pressure added to your sort of team and what you guys were doing? Because maybe in Rio, you guys, there weren't much expectations because no one had really seen you guys at games before. So how did you lot deal with that?
Yeah, team. Go on, Rod, as you go.
I was going to say my experience was slightly different because obviously I moved over to the coaching side.
Yeah, you're the coach now. Yeah.
Like I had the real fascination, like working with mainly with the women's team and talking around. I was trying to share my experiences, say that there's nothing on a sevens field that you guys will ever see or do that I haven't experienced in my career. But the expectation to deliver and like when you've been training and working with a team so closely, you know how good they can be. And it's just when you get closer to any major games, the pressure just ramps up, right? And it's not just on-field pressure, like everything. It goes back to overthinking, and you like as a coach, like I was like, we got one shot at this. I'm going to do absolutely everything I possibly can to make sure we're in the best possible place to be ready to perform. And as players, you're doing the same thing, but still, when you get closer and closer and closer, for some reason in your heads, just everything starts going through your mind at a million miles an hour, and it's how do you control that to make sure you're clear. And as you talked about being in that zone, now when I was sort of halfway through my career, and I don't know if Alex remembers this, but when we had a site come in, and one of the questions they asked right at the beginning was how much do you train your brain compared to how much do you train your body? And I was like embarrassed. I was like, wow, we spend like hour after hour in the gym, on the rugby pitch, doing like pushing ourselves to absolute limit, but we don't even talk about what our feelings are, what could distract us, what could put us off kilter when we need to perform at our best. And suddenly from there, I think we all bought into this journey that actually doesn't matter how fit you are, how strong you are, how quick you are in rugby, if you can't make a good decision and deliver at the right moment under fatigue in those pressure situations, there's no point being there because you're not going to make the right decision. So suddenly our balance of like what we were doing off the field became even more and more and more important. And actually going into tournaments, we opened up about how we were feeling, we as a group, and that became so powerful to us that to sort of say like, wow, what could distract us, what could put us off kilter, and then suddenly the guy next to me is thinking the same as me, and you're like, right, you've got a shared interest in this, we need to be better at it. And that was probably the thing that transformed us as a group, I'd say, going from, we started that before Rio. And for me, that was the biggest transformation in consistency of performance for me. I don't know if you've got memories of that, Alex, like what you remember from back then when, you know, obviously you came in a bit after the coaches started, but
yeah, we were obviously in a fortunate position because that was coming off the back of an England training program, and then we were thrown into a GB training program with Scottish and Welsh guys who weren't in the same position as us, fortunately, with a brilliant psychologist who was coming in every sort of couple weeks, every 4 weeks, and working with us directly to work around those sort of performance anxieties. And I think that's where we were in a really privileged position, is that we could almost, because I think we did some psychology sessions with Katie when we were in the Team GB camps, but we could almost bring those guys up to speed as well and sort of inform them as to what we felt had worked really well for us. So yeah, I think it's brilliant, to be honest. It's worked wonders, and I think I remember basically accepting when I was going through some hard rehab times that my body was in a place to get back to training, but psychologically I wasn't, and I had to tell the head coach, I was like, look, I'm not ready to play right now. Like, I'm not in the right headspace. I need to take some time out and just focus on getting myself together, because I won't perform well if my head's not in it. And like, as hard as that was to admit, it was the best thing for me. And I think definitely addressing those kind of situations and moments head on, and like being brave enough to open up and be vulnerable is huge. And I think if you can do that, obviously with like you said, Rodders, we're really lucky in a team environment, but Adam, I'm sure the same with you, just having working one-on-one with a psychologist, being able to do that and have that open, like, safe space is just so valuable.
I love what you just said about opening up, and because I think a lot of people, and especially in sport, they're closed off, because as soon as you open yourself up, you do become vulnerable. And it's are you willing to accept that vulnerability and share it with other people around you, rather than close yourself off and deflect all energies coming at you? So that is super important, to trust and have people around you that you trust. So if you do open yourself up and that you have that vulnerability, you're not alone. And that's key, I think.
So guys, we've obviously talked about a lot of this within our sporting context. Like, how much of this do you think is comparable to what we describe as the real world? What we might have to find ourselves in one day, where we've got to.
No idea. No
You think-
idea what the
but
real
like,
world is.
when you
I
speak
think
to your mates who are outside of sport, like, do they open up? Do they like? Do you think they've got those same feelings, that there's like a stigma around talking around mental health, that vulnerability? Like, do you think do you think we're in a better place in sport to actually understand it compared to people outside of sport?
I think we do. I definitely think we do in sport. I think it's so much harder for people in just, like I say, everyday work, like not in sport, to open up and share their issues and share their problems. And like we were talking about earlier, just try and soldier it and get on with it themselves. And we don't talk about mental health enough as men. We don't. And it's only now recently, in the last few years, I think it's becoming more and more acceptable to share those feelings and have that emotion and be vulnerable. So it does apply. It's just, it's not good. It does need to be a lot more. We do need to share a lot more, and men should feel okay. It's okay not to be okay. There's always these cheesy quotes that you hear, but they're true. It's okay to be going through something and not always be happy and smiling and bubbling, and that's normal. And as soon as people understand that, like it's fine.
Yeah. So why do you think that is? Do you think there's still that macho image around being a man, and that it's not, like talking about this, like a problem, however big or small you think it might be as an individual, like sharing it is a weakness, and you're going to be looked down on, and you're not strong enough to do what you're supposed to do, and things like that? Or is it something else, like a different issue?
No, I think it is the macho thing. I think with what you guys do, especially rugby, and everyone knows rugby culture. Everyone knows the stigma around rugby, and the macho-ness, and the lads and then whatever like that. I went to school, and all we played was rugby, and I've seen it. And as soon as you can get away from that stigma, and I think you guys are the leaders of that. As soon as seeing what you guys are doing as a team and sharing emotions and talking to each other and realizing it's okay if you're feeling not amazing, but talk to us about it. That's where the progress comes. So I think there is still that stigma around being a man, being macho, and having everything figured out, because we don't.
Yeah, I think you're bang on. Like, but just a slight side bit on that. I thought you had a football background. Now that you've got a
I
rugby
did.
background, do
Yeah,
you
no,
want
I
to?
play football, but I play rugby as well. So I was, yeah.
So 2023 Paris, can you make the transfer over?
I think I've got to put on a bit of weight. Like you guys, I think you'll look at me and I'll break in half, to be honest with you. But I'll be quick. I'll be quick. I don't know. I'll be super quick. But yeah, long time. Wow, rugby was a long time. I remember learning it not even, like year 7, year 8 in school, not even knowing the rules. They used to chuck me the ball and they said, go and take it into that little end zone. I used to just go and put it in the corner. They were like, no, between the posts. I was like, okay, cool. So, but I used to love it. I used to absolutely love it. So
So
it was
you're
great
saying
fun.
there's a chance?
Yeah, if athletics doesn't work out, then yeah, I'll see you. I'll see you on the rugby pitch.
Oh, nice. Look, I'm conscious of time. We've had a few questions come in, and just looking through them, and it's been great that people have interacting. But one of the big ones that's jumped out is, like, do you think all sports people suffer from anxiety, like, throughout their career?
Yeah, I think everyone does. It's completely natural. It'd almost be strange if you didn't. I mean, even people with all the swagger and all the confidence, like they've got all that because they're probably hiding behind a little bit of anxiety, and that want and willingness to perform and be successful. I think I've had many experiences standing in the tunnel, and you get that imposter syndrome, and you're like, what am I doing here? And you look across and you're stood next to a Samoan that's like 120 kilos, and you're like, I do not belong here. But
That's such
yeah,
a good, exactly. Honestly, I feel exactly like that. So I'm on the start line, and I'm with all these brutal, like these sprinters, and they've got pecs and abs and traps and I'm just looking at them like, and I'm like quite like, ooh, like just quite gimpy anyway. So I was like, I'm like, what is going, like, yeah, imposter syndrome is very much that's so true.
So guys, we talked a lot about, like, opening up, talking, which I think is massively important. We've shown and explained why that is, but, like, how much do you think all the work you guys have done, in sports will help you further down the line when you have to retire and you look at what next, like in terms of facing those challenges?
I mean, it's definitely helped. Like I still have those fears. Like obviously we've been talking about it like it's something that we just kind of learn overnight. It's definitely been a process and a trial and error. And I guess the thought of retirement and that transition definitely does scare me a little bit, because I love playing rugby. I love being in that environment. So that is worrying. But at the same time, I know there's so many experiences I've had along the way, and ultimately like being involved with so many good people. And that's one thing that we've touched on quite a few times in this chat. It's just that support network, and that's one thing that I'll just continue to rely on in whatever kind of work I'm doing. So that's one thing that I think is just so important and is relatable for anybody really, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Sport gives you so many values and that you wouldn't really find in everyday life. That teamwork, that sort of drive to always move forward, that to be at the top level, that sort of consistency in doing something day in, day out, even when you don't want to do it, you still have to get up and do it. And having those values from sport, I think, will definitely help people moving into the real world. I say getting a proper job, because I think a lot of sports people do struggle with that, not having that routine every day. But as soon as they find something they can apply themselves to, I think sports people, we will excel, because we're so used to trying to be the best at what we do, that it's just ingrained within us.
Nice. So just before I wrap up, one question to both of you. What one piece of advice would you give anyone listening that's struggling with a setback in their life or their general mental well-being at the moment? What's the one nugget that someone could take away that you would share if you got the chance?
I think just to speak up, share it with somebody. You never know, like they might be going through the same thing or have a previous experience. It's just, yeah, I think it's the one thing that I'm still getting, like I can be better at, but it's one thing that I've definitely taken the most from, is just sharing and speaking up.
Accept it, and allow whatever you're thinking. Give yourself time. Don't just try and like think of it and then brush it off. Give yourself a couple, like you said, you took 48 hours, you said, James, like give yourself time to understand that it's okay to not be okay. And then once you accept it, what am I going to do to try and make this better? Is it going to be talking to people? Is it going to be working on this? Is it going to be doing this? Plan that out. Have it planned. Have it written down somewhere so you know, and just work on it every single day. But taking that time to accept that it's not always going to be rosy and great and straightforward is super important, than just trying to deal with it before you've even accepted it. So
yeah, I was just going to say, like we didn't really touch on it too many times, but Adam, you just said about when things aren't rosy, but obviously there will be rosy times as well, and I think it's so important to enjoy them and celebrate them. Like obviously we've spoken about kind of how like the effects of poor mental health or anxiety, the anxiety around performance, but ultimately it's also about like the flip side of it, and we're actually kind of at times probably scared of shouting from the rooftops and being like, kind of, look at me, I'm proud of this, I'm proud of myself. But actually that's so important as well, is just being able to kind of take a moment to sit back, and because so quickly you can be successful, you can achieve something, you're just moving on to the next moment. So taking some time just to sit there and be like, wow, yeah, that was pretty special, like I did that was me. I think that's really important as well.
I think you guys are bang on with both of them, and I think my probably advice is just around perspective, understanding like other people are going through tough times as well, but if you can channel those and your mind and energy to thinking around like what other opportunities could become of what's happened, or just having a bit of perspective of how bad the situation actually is, can really helps me understand actually it's not that bad, and like I'm still doing something I love, or I'm still doing this, and like finding the right route out of that problem for you. For me, perspective is the really powerful tool. But guys, that I think we could probably talk a long time. I had loads of things written down on other areas and we didn't get onto them. So that we're really close to the end. I just want to thank you both for being so open, so honest, and hopefully everyone who's been listening has taken something good for it. I've really enjoyed chatting with you guys, and like I know you guys well, but I've learned a lot today as well. So thank you very much for your time. Adam, I know you've got to get off the training, so back to work. And,
I know, yeah. It's so wet outside, bloody hell, but no, we can get it done. We get it done. We have to get it done. So if I don't do it, someone else will do it. So yeah.
Awesome. And thank you to everyone who's been listening. I said hopefully you've taken something from today's chat. There's loads more events this month through Vitality all around men's mental health. If you can get logged into a few other ones, you hopefully get some more insight into what some amazing people do in this world. So thanks, guys. Thanks for everyone for listening, and have a great day.
Wicked. Cheers, guys.